Have you checked out the cheercollection.com yet? The Cheer Collection is inspirational style for every cheer enthusiast. It has beautiful pieces like bracelets, necklaces, adjustable rings with special quotes that only we from the cheer world understand, like hit 0 and 2 minutes and 30 seconds. We also have quotes like Cheer Mom and Flyer and Base. I would love for you to check out the Cheer Collection and enter coupon code Cheer Mom Pod. That's Cheer Mom POD, short for podcast. Cheer Mom Pod for a special discount just for listeners of the Cheer Mom podcast.
All the moms in the world, let's chat it up. We're talking competitions, uniforms, and all of the above. It's the Cheer Mom, yes, the Cheer Mom podcast. Cheer Mom, yes, the Cheer Mom podcast. Cheer Moms, your podcast is on.
I am not going to spend too much time introducing this episode because it speaks for itself. We did our first Cheer Mom Roundtable. I invited 3 other cheer moms to come and have a discussion, and we talk through questions that you guys ask often and topics that are on cheer moms' minds. They were incredible. I cannot wait for you to meet these ladies through this episode, and I can't wait to do this again. So if you want to be part of the next Cheer Mom Roundtable, send me an email, hi@thecheermomblog.com, and we can get your application in, and we are going to do this on a regular basis. Without further ado, here's the Cheer Mom Roundtable. I think that you're going to hear and see yourself in these moms, and you're going to find so much common ground and hopefully realize that you are not alone in this cheer mom journey, that so many of us are having similar experiences. Thank you to Meredith, Michele, and Candice. You guys were incredible, and I know that you listeners are going to enjoy this episode. It's our first Cheer Mom Roundtable, and I have to say, I've been thinking about doing this for a while, and I was like, yeah, but would anyone really want to do it? That seems like a big ask of people, but I put it out there, and I was like, if you want to be on the podcast, just fill out this form. And I thought maybe a few people would apply. We had over 75 people who want to be on the podcast. And so I think that we're going to make this a regular thing. This is our very first one, and we're going to see how it goes. So if you enjoy this and want to be part of it, let me know, leave a review. You know how it works. But I'm going to welcome our Cheer Mom Roundtable members. We have Meredith, Candice, and Michele who are joining me. Yes, we're waving on the video. Yes, this is so exciting. And so, ladies, let's start by introducing yourselves. Tell us how long you've been at Cheer Mom, what program you're part of, and what team or level your child or children are on. Meredith, let's start with you.
Sure. Okay, so my name's Meredith. I have 4 kids, but luckily only one of them cheers. I'm not sure I could afford much more than that. My daughter, Peyton, goes to cheer athletics, and she is on ICE 4 this year, which is a junior level 4 team. She has been cheering. We've kind of been in this cheer game. I think we were talking about it in the car today. I think 7 years. This is her 7th year, including like prep and mini and all that stuff. We're in Denver. So that's a little bit about us.
Candice, what about you?
My name is Candice Copeland. I am from Orlando, Florida. I have been in the cheer world. Oh my gosh. I cheered. So I started out 5 years old, probably in this craziness. And now I have a daughter who cheers. We are at Top Gun Orlando, and her name is London. Thankfully, just like you, Meredith, I only have one girl. I have 3 boys, but one cheer girl because I wouldn't be able to afford, any other ones doing this sport. But she is on youth level 2. So we're really excited. She got to level up this year, and she's about to turn 10. So it's going to be a good season for her. But I'm also in the industry. I work for No Limit Sportswear. I'm the director of business development. So we are the creators of the V-Row. Most people know us as the shoe that Victor Rosario, the owner of Top Gun, created. So I am fully in this world. Every time I thought I was going to get away, I got sucked back in. And now I am in it from every angle. So,
Awesome. And Michele.
I'm a little different, I think, than the other moms. I am the mom of a 19-year-old daughter, and she actually is going to be a junior in college. So she actually hung up her cheer shoes at the end of her senior year of high school, deciding to go to a university that did not have an all-girl competitive cheer team. And as a back, you can't really do too much on the co-ed team. So my daughter started cheering at 3 and started competitive cheering at 7. So I was a cheer mom for over 11 years, and she ended her cheer career at Worlds from Long Island Cheer on their Diamonds Level 6 team.
Amazing. Yeah, I really wanted to have cheer moms from across the board, not just geographically, but with different age levels and different experiences. And like I said, I think we have some really experienced moms. So I'm excited to dive in with you all. I poured myself a glass of wine for this one. So I'm going to just sit back and enjoy, and cheers to all of you while I gain from your expertise. So cheers, everybody. Okay, so let's talk about that. Everyone has kind of brought up the expense of cheerleading and how I don't know how some of you moms can afford multiple children in cheerleading. Like, what do you do for a living? How? But let's talk a little bit about the expense. You guys have, Meredith and Candice, you have other kids that I'm sure are involved in other activities. How does All Star Cheer compare as far as expense goes?
oh, to me, there's no comparison. So thankfully, my boys are more into just, like a seasonal, like a season of T-ball or a season of soccer where you just pay, one fee. It's a whole season. You get the uniform, you get the whole shebang, and it's like $250. And, it's a whole different ball game in cheer. And you I don't even know who I Venmo anymore. I'm gonna be honest with you. I have so many Venmo requests, and I'm just like, okay. I'm like, I don't even know what I paid for. I don't even know, but I'm getting some rhinestone stuff showing up, and it works. My husband doesn't understand it. He's completely flabbergasted by the entire theatrics of cheer.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about cheer, and it's really the only organized sport that I've been a part of as a parent. And it's not just the tuition, it's everything else. Like, it's not just the tuition, it's not just the travel cost, it's not just the uniform fees. There's something needs to be bedazzled, or there's a team gift, and you're just throwing Venmo money back and forth. I mean, I was looking at my Venmo history to see how much I paid someone for something, and that person and I are cheer moms, and we were just back and forth, like, just giving each other money, like, every every week.
At the end of it, it probably would have all added up. If you just paid for all of her stuff and she paid for all of your stuff, it probably would have been a wash at that point. Um, no, it's so true. And it's themed practices, everything, this week it's a theme. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even keep up with this stuff. Jeez. So I, keep stuff just in my car to like whip out on demand because I'm a hot mess. So I usually don't know about themes until we pull up and you see all these girls coming in. I'm like, oh God, throw this bow on. That looks good. That looks like circus theme. We're good.
Meredith and Michele, I hear the moaning and the eye rolling, and see you both nodding in agreement about the themed practices.
Well, it's expensive, but I will say I never really minded because of what my daughter was getting out of it. And I don't mean winning a jacket or winning a whatever. It was the friendships and the confidence and the smiles and the memories that I have at a very different point. I basically have already paid, my $100,000, and I'm done with that part. And I didn't have Venmo the whole time. I don't think Kristen probably did either in the beginning when my daughter was a mini one. So it was easier when they gave you a bill and you knew what you were spending, and your daughter
Right.
wasn't old enough to just throw stuff from the cheer shop on your account. But the private lessons are in all the sports. It's in lacrosse, it's in soccer. I work with someone whose child is a D1 Ivy League, soccer goalie. She paid a lot of money for that too. But for me, I always found it kind of insulting when people would make fun of the cost or would question me, like, I can't believe you spend that, or why do you spend that? Like, as if I don't ask other people how come they spend a certain amount on their mortgage or on a vacation. So I always found that to be like, why do they care how much I spend on my kid's sport, and why it means so much to her when she was 3 and said, "Mommy, I want to be a cheerleader," and I didn't even know what that was because I wasn't one. And the
That is
memories that I have
interesting.
traveling,
Yeah, that's super interesting is that people do go, "Well, why are you still doing that?" I got judged by my
yeah,
friends who my daughter was going into high school and they were asking what activity she was going to be involved in, and I was like, "Well, whatever's going to work with her cheer schedule." And
yeah,
they're like, "Oh, she's still doing that?"
yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, yeah." And do you think maybe it's just because it's such a different world, people don't understand?
Well, they put it down for a long time. Like when my daughter was very young, my husband's a huge sports fanatic, and people were like, "Oh, is she going to play basketball at UConn?" She wasn't. Like, what, 6 kids get recruited for their year or something. But
Mhm.
my husband actually embraced the whole thing. And he had the dad shirt with the bling that said, Molly's dad on the back. And and he started out not understanding. And over the years, he started to understand. Now, did he understand the scoring? No. Did he understand which competitions meant what, or how you get to Worlds or Summit, or no? But did he care greatly when he saw his kid on that stage, with the lights, and when her team won, and or when her team lost and she was crying? Like, did he care? He did. And it meant the same as when my son hits a baseball and gets on base. So I think there's something to be said, for people seeing this as a real sport.
Yeah.
And I think they don't put down other, if your kid was going to get recruited by UConn basketball, nobody would ask those parents, "I can't believe how much you spent on or double A base basketball."
I think you nailed it where you said that it wasn't always seen as a sport, and it
No.
hasn't been. I know when I cheered, I remember teachers growing up in high school like making fun of it
Yeah.
to me, and making fun that we would wear our skirts on Fridays, for game days, and no one saw it as a sport. And so they question, why would you spend that much? Why are you doing this much? And it blows my mind. It's If anyone actually watched, a competition, they would never be able to say that. Watch these athletes on the mat. They would never be able to say, is this a sport? Yeah, it's 100% a sport. It's the most incredible sport I've ever known, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. When my kid drops something, it's not a ball.
True.
It's a
That is
human.
so true.
It's a
Yeah.
person. Like she has to save a person, not a ball. So there was a huge responsibility too, that you can't place money on that. And I know, there's also a fee difference across the country. And I know that
Mhm.
because moms look up other gym costs. I don't know if you've ever done that, but
Oh, we're always asking each other, "What are you paying?" or "What are you paying?"
and there's a huge difference across the country.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I will say, I agree with Michele. Having 4 kids, my youngest is 12 and my oldest is 16, and across the board, everything is expensive. I have a competitive wrestler and it's year round. If he wants to be competitive, he's year round. And here's the truth of the matter is, you know, it's a sacrifice for our entire family, and we recognize that as parents. I recognize that as parents, and we do come to that decision as a family at least once a year. where we sit down and we talk about it and we say like, okay, are these sacrifices that we are willing to make as a family? These are dreams that you guys have, and we as parents will help you reach those goals in whatever means that we can, but it will require some sacrifices from you, right? Peyton, if we're going to do all-star competitive cheer, we may not be able to buy you tickets to Taylor Swift, right? Or we may not be able to drive brand new cars. And that's okay. Like, she needs to feel that sacrifice too, because it is a sacrifice for our whole family. And so it's something that she is very committed to because she makes those sacrifices, right? And she knows and understands what we do, as well, all my kids do, because we all sacrifice for different things in different seasons. But for cheer specifically, I always want her to know that we as a family are sacrificing for you, and not for her to feel guilty, but so that she can take it and be like, wow, I have a responsibility then to do something with this, right? Now I'm not talking about like win or college scholarships, but to attend practice and not flake it out, or give it everything I got. And my kids have always been really hard workers, because we are upfront and honest with them about the cost and what that means for our family. So I think that's just a really important conversation to have as well, when you're talking about the cost of cheer. I'm a teacher. I'm not like rolling in the dough over here, and so, but we make those decisions because we love our kids and we do want them to see all their dreams fulfilled in whatever means that we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I think that's important for our kids to understand the sacrifice that our families are making. From your perspective, and I want to hear all of your answers, what makes that sacrifice worth it? Is it winning? Is it being part of a cheer family? What's that measurable that it's like, I'm going to keep sacrificing for this?
I mean, we do, of course. I would be lying if I didn't say we wanted to win, right? Like every cheerleader sets out there to win. I want to wear the jacket around the kitchen, like I do. I totally do. I would totally steal that from her and wear it around the jacket. I was a cheerleader too, Candice, growing up. I did all-star cheer growing up too at Twist and Shout, and we never won the jacket either. So I'm like, come on, we got to win this. But no, but truly, like in terms of priority, when we look at like what is most important, and this goes for all sports, but cheers, I think about cheer specifically, like the character that it's building inside my kiddo is sort of irreplaceable, right? Becoming a really good teammate, taking criticism from coaches and sticking with something when it's really hard, mental blocks, encouraging her friends when they're not succeeding, taking responsibility when things don't go well, encouraging teammates when things don't go well for them, getting back up and doing it again. It's cheer is unlike any other sport in that they work so hard for such a short 2.5 minutes, right? And so it does take a lot of dedication, and I'm so proud of the character that she's building, that to me the sacrifice is so worth it, because of cheer is a part of her journey to becoming who she's supposed to be, right? And so I want her to sharpen those tools on the mat that she'll use later in life when she's a mom, a daughter, a coworker, a business leader, whatever she wants to be. She's learning those skills in cheer.
Beautifully said.
That was great. I feel like that like quoted
They should
somewhere
put that on a poster.
Yeah,
It's
that
a
was
poster
amazing.
when you walk into the cheer gym. But it's true. As somebody who's
I gotta
out,
follow her.
yeah, I mean, I'm out of this, right? So in that way, I'm not out of cheer, because we still follow, and I still pay that varsity subscription somehow every year still. That doesn't end because your kid graduates high school. But I think it's really important that it's not really, you know what, your kid learns how to lose as much as they learn how to win. And they also learn disappointment, because cheer is one of those sports that you can hit zero. You can hit that home run. You got it. And guess what? You still come in third, or you come in fourth, or you don't get the bid. And you're like, but that other team, they had a fall and they still won. I mean, you learn so much about a sport, about a grander industry too.
Oh yeah.
Cheer is an industry. My daughter made friends with kids all over the country throughout her cheer journey. And I couldn't believe she was making connections with people I didn't even know. I didn't know how she did that. And cheer, from gyms all over the country when good and bad things were happening at their gyms, and giving them encouragement even when they're going up against you. I mean, what other sport does that?
I just love how like you said, Michele, like you can hit zero, you can nail a routine and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, you have it." Like you guys got it, and you can still get third place because that other team, you know, was even, nailed it even harder, or they had higher skills, or whatever the case may be. But I love that my daughter can, congratulate the girls that won. I love that she can be like, all right, let's go eat, like, let's go. What are we going to do for food? And be able to take the wins, because she's had great wins, but she's had great losses. And she can keep rolling and say, okay, what next? What can we do? Let's keep going. Let's get that next skill. Let's work harder. Because the resilience that she has learned in this sport, to me, is something that will follow through her, entire adulthood. And I will joke all day long about Venmoing and not knowing who I'm Venmoing and all the money spent, but at the end of the day, I would do it 10 times over. And I would work 10 times harder to make sure she can stay in the sport that is giving her so much more than just, an athletic ability.
Yeah, so good. And there are so many positive aspects to our sport and our industry and everything that you guys said, just the character building and the friendships and the team building. And I think that those are so important. I always say, yeah, I am the most competitive person you'll meet, and I want to win and I love to win, but I am not here for my daughter to win, because I see the way that she can be herself on the mat, and I see the way that people are supporting her, and all of those things that have nothing to do with a score sheet or a trophy or a jacket that make me go, this is where she belongs. So let's take a minute we've talked about kind of the positive sides, and there are two sides to every coin. And so let's talk maybe about some of those darker sides of cheerleading. And I think that I had somebody reach out, and I see this question a lot, but recently someone reached out and said, my daughter is being singled out in her stunt group for doing things wrong or not having the right skills. And I feel like she's being picked on, and the coach isn't really doing anything about it. And I see that a lot. I think that that's when you put a group of girls together, especially, you're going to get things like that no matter what setting they're in. But what are your thoughts on that, and how would you tackle that if it was your own daughter in that situation?
I think it's really important that you really have to sometimes look at the situation and see, does your daughter, has she been up leveled, maybe because her tumbling is higher than her stunting ability? And that does happen for a million different reasons. We needed a back, we needed a flyer, and whatever. And then you need to kind of, I think, cheer, and like any sport, you really need to look at your kid with not rose-colored glasses and say, maybe my child does need that private, or maybe we really do need to work on something. I think the meanness of the way it's being talked about is part of the problem. Not that the skill isn't there, but the meanness. You're going to get that, and your kid's going to face that in middle school. If anyone, I mean, middle school girls, that's a brutal place to be. So part of it is that
It's a brutal time.
It's a brutal time. And part of, this learning is, how old is this child? If this is a 6-year-old with 12, that's one of the things I'm not a huge fan of, is the huge age ranges sometimes in cheer. And if you're talking about 14-year-olds, making fun of an 11-year-old for not having a skill, that's very different than 2 6-year-olds saying, you didn't hold my ankle right. So I think you have to look at the situation and see, how can you support your daughter or your athlete boys, of course, look at it and say, well, what can you do to gain that skill? How do I support you in doing that? But also, how can I guide you through standing up for yourself against that bully? Now, again, two little 6-year-olds blaming each other because a stunt fell. Coaches are not getting involved in that. They say, move on, we're done. But again, if you have a 14-year-old telling an 11-year-old this is all your fault, and blaming everything, your kid's not going to want to do the sport anymore. I kind of like to caution, it's time for the athlete to go to their coach one-on-one and say, I need help navigating this situation, and practicing that with your kid. If they need you to, I'll be the coach. You practice talking to me. Sometimes coaches are scary. We all pretend that they're like, they can be kind of scary and intimidating. And if it's a new athlete to a team and their friend didn't get moved up because this new girl came in with this incredible skill tumbling, and now they're going to blame her for it. So there's so many things that could be going on.
Yeah. I feel like I saw it a lot this season with team placements. And, I
buckle up as you get older.
Lord, yeah, that's when this came in handy right here. I was like, all right, but I definitely agree with you I always tell London, like, use your voice. Like, I want her to be able to speak for herself, because of course, I can always go and message the coach, or I can always go and talk to the gym owner, or do what I can do to talk, but I don't want to just always solve her problems for her, because I want her to learn that she has a voice. She knows she has amazing character. She is trustworthy, and she needs to use her voice, and she needs to speak her mind. If it's respectful, she needs to be respectful about it, but she needs to use her voice. And I saw that a lot with this new team placement, because they created a new team and her entire team got divided. And, the moms, I'm going to be honest, and they're sometimes worse than the kids. The kids are just, yay, and the moms are, woo, I don't have to tell you guys that. You guys all understand. And even myself, I've learned to just kind of step away and just kind of stay in my lane. But I always want her to use her voice. And if she's feeling like something is off, I want her to go to her coaches, because in my opinion, they're the experts. They may see things that I don't see from that other side of that glass. When I'm watching, there's a lot that they see. There's a lot of moving parts that they see, but maybe there's things that they miss. Absolutely. But I'm always just telling her, like, talk to your coach, tell them how you feel, and maybe talk it out with your stunt group, and just find that voice.
A rule that we have sort of like enacted in our family too is a 24-hour rule, where when Peyton gets in the car and she feels like something was very unsuccessful, especially with another teammate, I let her vent. I let her talk about it. I never, ever, ever talk badly about that teammate, because I've learned in the past that after 24 hours of Peyton being able to process what happened, we try to talk. Sometimes I'll set an alarm on my phone, and 24 hours later, we will talk about what happened. And usually it will always come from a calmer place from her. And it's usually a very different account than what happened that she told me last night. And so sometimes I think, when we hear that our kids have been criticized by a teammate, sometimes it's not as critical as our teammate as our athlete heard it. And it is a sport where every single person has to be doing their job. And so it is frustrating when someone feels like someone in the group isn't doing their job, including my own daughter. And so, I've learned that Peyton can sometimes hear something, and later I'm like, that wasn't really that critical. That was actually like just really constructive and helpful to you. But there have been times in the past where it has been delivered unkindly. And then you do have to sort of like, especially if it's an ongoing problem, you do have to kind of address it. And something that I try to do is always give the adults in the room the benefit of the doubt. So like, even if she comes home and says like, this happened and my coach didn't do anything about it, usually that's not always the case. And so I'm like, oh, well, I've seen so many cheer moms like just start to derail and criticize the coach in front of their daughter. And that's not helpful to anybody. And so I always try to back the coach, and then maybe privately I can ask him like, hey, like what's going on? Or like her, like what's going on? Is this happening? I can sometimes get paid to advocate for that. As she's getting older, she's getting better at that. But sometimes I do have to step in and say, is this something that I can be helpful with? Or how can I help Coach Peyton into this relationship? And then my last piece of advice on this topic is just to think about sometimes, and this goes for like some of the other topics I think we're going to hit, which is like kind of like gossipy moms and things like that too. But sometimes you have to look at like the program that you're in too and think, is this breeding this kind of behavior? And we've been a part of programs before where like it just like the leadership, it just kind of breeds that kind of behavior, and it might just not be a place that's healthy for your athlete. And like we talked about earlier, if you really want your athlete to gain some life skills that are character building and good, they need to be in the right program where kindness is championed and the right kind of criticism is at the top priority, and grace and forgiveness and all those things are evident in your gym. And if they're not, you have to be starting to ask yourself some questions of, is this the right place? And so like we at Cheer Athletics, where we're at now, we have not really experienced any of that real strong. I mean, Peyton will sometimes get in the car and hear, and like she'll tell me some things that happened that were critical, but later I found out that they weren't necessarily so critical. And if they were dealt with. They were handled. And that's the kind of gym, that's the kind of program that I want her to be in, because she's learning those skills through that adversity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's huge. The program is a big contributing factor. And if they are just spilling out positivity and perseverance, that is going to spill over into the athlete.
Let's talk about the thing that we all deal with, that we all struggle with, that everybody wants to hear other cheer moms talk about and how they deal with it, is other parents. And I think that it's easy to say, oh, just stay out of the drama, just ignore the drama. A lot of us will not go into the gym and watch practices, even if we're allowed to watch practices. We'll sit in our car, and they say, I just sit in my car to avoid the drama. But what I found after 11 years in the sport is sometimes the drama finds you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you cannot fully shield yourself from it. We go to competitions, we travel, people talk. Maybe your cheer mom friend will say, oh, so and so was saying this about you, or say so and so was saying this about this other mom. So, how do you guys deal? How do you cope with, even if it's just that one parent that ruins it for all of us? How do you deal with it?
Team placement gossip is a different time. That's a harder, those few days when those or they used to be, right? Cheer Athletics had their little calls. Now they don't do that. But like those were all over TikTok and Instagram. And, I think when you start to see it as it's not your sport, that always helped me. This isn't me. This is my kid. Also, it's not the Olympics. I know everyone doesn't like to think that, but my kid is not Simone Biles. So ESPN is not going to trash her because she had a bad day or didn't make a certain team. I think when I started to put it in better perspective, right, going from mini one all the way to, a level 6, world's team, I think you have to start to stop feeling like you're competing for placement or you're competing for athlete of the year at the end of the year, or it's not a personal affront. So I do think staying out of the gym does help. I know not everyone believes that, but I do think it helps, because when you watch practice and you see, well, they gave that kid 3 more tries on the trampoline, or the coach helped that girl get her tuck and my daughter wanted to get her. None of that matters at the end of the day. Like, you have to kind of, divorce yourself from some of that, because you don't even know what's going on half the time. I think not watching when your kid gets to a certain age and you can get a phone call if they need you to pick them up. I think not feeling like you are personally winning something or you are better than someone else because your child made a better team. I think all of that, when you stop it, it doesn't come to you as much, to be honest.
It's It's definitely easy. I noticed this year in myself, like going into team placements, I got into it. And I had to even check myself. I'm not gonna lie. I was like wearing the colors of the team I thought she was gonna make, and I was in it. And I had to check myself because I saw what I was doing was spilling over into London. And I was starting to care more than what she was caring. And I legit, and she didn't make the team she in her mind sought out that she was going to make. So at the end, I was the one who was shocked, and she was like, okay, she was good. So that's definitely something I even learned for myself. Like, okay, girl, like maybe you need to check yourself, because I definitely found myself kind of, as you said, like, this is about me. And it is, I've had my turn, sister, sit down, like, you're done. Like, you're washed up athlete now, get off the stage. But it's easy to fall into that drama. It is super easy. And I always found that I find like the people that I just vibe with who are just good energy. Like, I don't need to talk about anybody else's kid. I am focusing on my kid and the team as a whole and all their wins. And so did amazing. Did you see her facial expressions? Did you see her jumps and looking at a team as a whole and just being a positive part of a team? London had an incredible season last year. They won worlds, and it was just an amazing team bonding, not only for the kids but for the parents and the coaches. And I can't speak more from the perspective of how amazing that team was. And it was cool. It was every single parent on that team was praising all the kids. It wasn't just their kids. So it's kind of surrounding yourself around positive energy and being okay to check yourself, because I definitely saw myself and I was like, okay, but it's so true. You have to trust the process. You have to remember that you're on the opposite side of the glass. You're not hearing conversations. You don't know anything going on. You're reading lips and you're just kind of watching things and you're kind of creating your own narrative. And I do think not being at the gym is super helpful, because it just kind of, the chit chat just happens, and just surrounding yourself around good people that you vibe with, that you feel like you're on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, it takes two people to gossip, right? So I always find that, like, if someone, and I'm not perfect at this at all, but if someone comes up and, is starting to share something, it's like, if I don't engage back, it often either the conversation ends or they definitely don't come back to me again. And I'll tell you, here's like just a couple tips so I've been a team rep now for my daughter's team. I've been a team rep for 2 years, and my team's probably going to kill me for saying this, but I think one of the worst things is when you create a group chat, a group text message with the moms. And it's like, that's where a lot of our problems have come from. And so we just we just throw a coach in there and it all stops. If you throw a coach if you really have to have a group text message, which sometimes you do, like, where are we meeting? And our program, uses like an app like Band, but it doesn't always work. And so sometimes you just need a text thread. Just throw a coach in there. And that helps. And then just constantly reminding yourself, like Michele said, like, your athlete is always watching you. And if you don't want to breed that behavior on your team, like, certainly don't breed that with adults on your team. My cheer bestie, the mom that I'm best friends with, her daughter does not cheer on the same team as Peyton, and they probably never will. And we lucked out and we're on a Y2 together. Y2 Candice was our best year ever. It was the best. We had so much fun that year.
By the way.
Y2 is where it's at. Man, that was our best year. Oh,
we were undefeated. What a great year.
It was the best year. And we just became really good friends that year. But since then, they've never been on a team since. And that was 4 years ago. But, when sometimes I'll have to go to her and ask her things. But I always ask myself inside, I'm like, am I looking for a solution here? Or am I just telling her to tell her? Because if I'm telling her to tell her, I just don't do it. If I'm looking for a solution, like, hey, like, Peyton's really having a hard time with this girl on the team, or Peyton's having a really hard time, this girl seems to be having a really hard time getting the skill. What do you think? Whatever. If I'm looking for a solution from her, then that's usually my heart's in the right place. But if I'm not, it's just don't do it. Just check yourself all the time, and your kids are always watching. And
Yeah.
I don't want to raise a kid that gossips. Like, it is
No.
like the root of all division in relationships. And so it's like, if I can avoid it, then she sees that. She's watched me walk away from conversations before. She's watched me, turn down that like trip to the bar during a competition or whatever.
Yep.
And that's another thing. Last year, our team decided that we would go out, like we dropped the girls off, and like sometimes we would meet up, but we promised ourselves we would not talk about cheer. Like, we weren't allowed to talk one thing that was cheer related. And that helped a lot. It's just kind of like, let's talk about something else. Talk about husbands, talk about work, talk about travel, talk about anything else. And that keeps us in a safe place.
And I do think, yeah, that's incredible. And like, it's one of those things like, is it kind? Is it, is there any
true? Yeah.
yes, what is the whole like, and I think if you think of like your child's watching, and I always want her to be kind and loving and be the girl who's encouraging the girl who maybe is not hitting, that skill that she's working hard on. Encourage her to hit it, or be that one, be that kind girl. And I think that really will spill over if you're embedding that into them. But
It's part of the process. It's part of the process of becoming who they're supposed to be, right? This is part of this cheer process, is molding her. And gossip, unfortunately, is one of those things that is a part of this cheer process.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just you're a fourth grade teacher. You deal with this all day long for 200 days a year.
Right.
Outside of cheer. Right. I mean, fourth grade girls are no better.
Right? The worst. I know.
The worst.
No, and man. I have like my cheer bestie, Chanel, and I'm always like, you got to get you a Chanel. Chanel is so fun. It's just positive people that you're putting in your child's life. But I'm a hot mess. So I always also need a really good cheer bestie too, who knows where we need to be, what we need to wear, what bow, because I never have that. I always need cliff notes from the group me's because, I'll miss an entire day. And there's
you need the TLDR version of the long emails, right? Yeah. Too long, didn't read.
I'll write it. They probably hate me because I'll write like, hey guys, cliff notes, been away for about 45 minutes and miss 47,000 text messages. Tell me what's going on and who do I need a Venmo? But it's a really cool dynamic.
What gets me is that we have all of these reactions and these emotions, I think, because we all want to see our kids do well and succeed, and we want the best for our kids. And that comes out in so many different ways, right? And so if we feel like our kids are not getting the best, in fact, they're getting treated poorly, then that mama bear comes out. And so reining that in and really getting the whole picture takes a lot of self-control and a lot of restraint. But I think that's a really good lesson, Meredith, that you gave us. So let's finish up, because this is another really popular question, and I want to end on a high note, is how do you find cheer mom friends? Candice, you mentioned you got to get you a Chanel. And from what I can tell in our short conversation today, you are outgoing and friendly and probably never meet a stranger. But what advice would you guys have to someone? I'll be honest, I'm pretty introverted and I have a hard time inserting myself into conversations or approaching people that I don't know, right? And so I had a hard time making cheer mom friends, and I see a lot of cheer moms that are privately struggling and feel not just left out but singled out, and they're spending so much time with their kid in this sport and they're lonely. So, what advice do you guys have for them?
I think some of it comes down to, as you go through the different teams and the different ages, your need for some of that, I think, changes a little bit too. When they're younger, I think you're still at every practice. You're taking them to every little team bonding party, and you're the one making the cupcakes. And you're still, as they get a little older, sometimes you're not invited to some of that stuff as much. And now they're doing team sleepovers, and things change a little. I think you don't need so many friends. I think as you get older too, I'm 52, just in my life in general, when you're 15, you want 50,000 friends, but when you get to a certain age, you're like, do I really want that many? I think if you can get those, if you can just be cordial and friendly, is very different than being friends. So of all the years and years, I still have a couple of moms that my daughter is close friend, is a good friend of their daughters. They're graduating college now. Some of these girls, I saw them when they were 8-year-old babies on, and mini teams. I will text the mom occasionally, congratulations, or I was so excited to see, your daughter do so well or something. But as you get older, I think you just need that one or two moms that you feel connected to a little bit for that cheer season. That doesn't mean they are coming to your house for barbecues. I'm also like you, Kristen, I'm not overly putting myself out there all the time. So I needed that one who I was traveling with. You're driving, you're sharing a hotel room. It was nice but you start to see as people cycle through, their kids go to high school, they might not cheer anymore. They'll go to high school cheer instead of all-star. You start to let go of some of them. And to be honest, I kept one from all these years of cheer, and I have one cheer friend that we still are in touch. Her daughter's just graduating this year, and that's okay. I think you're lonely, but it's because when you're out, it seems like everyone else is such good friends, but a lot of times they're not really good friends. They're friends for that day because they all want to go to the bar together. They're friends for that. No, it's true. There's a lot of drinking going on this year. Morning drinking too. Red Solos at like 10 a.m. Very stressful.
I don't see what the problem is.
Those 2.5 minutes are very stressful. They're much more stressful than you think. But I think that's part of it. They're just friends for that bar, for that dinner. They're not really calling each other every day, unless they're gossiping. Like Meredith said, if you took all that away, would they really be friends?
I agree. I think some of that is you're looking at a highlight reel, just like we see on social media,
Instagram.
that
Yeah.
they're friends, but they're friendly. They're not friends like in deep relationship, and it's easy to slip into that FOMO and thinking that everyone else has something that you don't have. What about you, Meredith, Candice?
I have, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a little bit like Michele. I have like one really good cheer bestie, and we don't talk about cheer a lot. We go to Trader Joe's during practice a lot, and we walk around Nordstrom without our kids. I mean, it's just like we try to do other things. And I've been in this for a long time, and so sometimes I forget what it's like to be the new one. And I have to check myself a lot, because I even had like a mom call me out on it last year, that she felt like our group was cliquey and they were new. And I looking back, I see it now. Like, there was 3 or 4 of them who were new to our gym, and they all kind of clung together, and I don't blame them. We're kind of like a dysfunctional family that you're joining. I mean, we've been through some stuff together, like a lot of us, our girls have leveled up together. And we've been through heartache. We've been through traveling. We've supported each other when our kids get sick, or it's not a ton of us, but sometimes it can feel like there's a big group of that. And so I think it's really important for veteran moms to really consider those new moms. And when you have a team bonding, or when you have a barbecue at the house, or whatever, that you really do make it intentional to make them feel welcome. It is, because it is hard. It is hard to be a mom. It's hard to be a woman, right? Like I tell Peyton all the time, she's 14, but I'm like, listen, like, I wish I could tell you that like mom drama ends or that girl drama ends someday, and it really doesn't. But if we can just be intentional with each other and really think about it, I think we would just make it a more, a good place to be. And so I think it's important for teen moms to like foster that like constant communication. I think that's important. If you're feeling like the new mom, if you can, try to put yourself out there, come to the team bondings, try if you can, especially when your kids are young, and sit down, come with your husband if you have to, if it makes you feel better, you have like somebody there, and just, put yourself in those conversations and talk to them. Because like, I know like the moms on our team last year who were veteran moms, we really are nice people. we just tend to like, oh my gosh, you just single in with them. You're like, oh my gosh, how's Cassidy doing? Or oh my gosh, how's Jessica doing? Or whatever, because you just know their families and whatever. And so, but I think it's important for veteran moms to really consider that and try to make it a place. Go out of your way. Invite just one new mom during practice to have a margarita during practice with you. It can just be for a quick half an hour, but it will do worlds for her to feel like she's a part of the group and that she has an ally. Because traveling alone with your kid is hard. And I don't travel with my husband because he has to stay home with the 3 kids. And traveling alone, you need a friend. You just do. And so making yourself available to be that friend to somebody, you don't have to be best friends, but just to give them an ally in the gym is really important.
So true. Like you said, Kristen, I don't have a problem. I can speak to a wall. It's, and has its, perks and negatives, totally. But I make it a point that I talk to everyone. And if there is a mom who is not talking to anyone, I will go sit by her and just talk to her and get to know her, who her kids are and what they're doing and all that stuff.
And I think that our kids see this. So it's funny, every time Meredith says something, I feel like she is talking about 4th grade or 5th grade or 6th grade because it's all true, right? Like, what's the
Or
lesson?
47-year-old cheer moms.
Yeah, but that's what she's really saying, right? When you think about, right, buddy benches and, a new kid coming to school and feeling left out, what are the advice the teachers are like? We just want the kids to interact with other kids today. We're hoping that everyone will be friends, and you have to invite everyone from the class or invite no one. You can't go around giving invitations out to just 12 out of the 14 girls in a class. And I feel like if maybe we kind of took lessons more from the 4th grade teachers in our life, our whole lives would be better, right? Just in general, not just about cheer, but no gossiping, don't be mean to each other, and include everyone. We'd probably have a better all around world, period. That's absolutely
true. It's true. And, like these are life skills they're learning in cheer.
Mm-hmm. But they're also learning them from you and how you conduct yourself at cheer. And I hear you guys talking about travel. It makes me very sad. So I will say that you blink, and I know Kristen can say this because you blink. You just blink and it's like over. All of a sudden you're at year 12 and you're at senior year and your kid's getting flowers like from their coach and saying, if maybe they cheer at college, but it is a different type of cheer when they go to college. It's not you dropping them all. It's very different, but maybe they don't. Yeah. And I think you just have to enjoy those moments of sharing a double room with somebody and putting on, whatever show the kids are trying to watch, and you're exhausted and you have to get up in the next morning and you dread that French braid, or you dread we had to do poofs. I don't think they're poofing too much now, but you're dreading waking
up. No, the poofs are making a comeback. The poofs are making a comeback.
It's horrific for their hair. Poofs should never make a comeback. But when you're getting your kid up at 6 a.m. to do makeup, eventually someday you don't get to do that and you kind of miss it. You not just kind of, you do.
Yeah, nothing made me feel more special as a cheer mom than when the group or people that I perceived to be cliquey said, hey, don't sit by yourself. Come sit with us. Or we saved you a seat. Not just putting it out to the group like we have a row of seats, but saying, hey, Kristen, come sit here next to us. So just something as simple as that. And then I would say from the other perspective, your kids are also watching you being the person putting yourself out there. A lot of kids are shy. And if we want to teach our kids how to integrate into society, they're watching how we put ourselves out there. And so I think it's important that even if you think it's a blanket text message only to the clique, if you're seeing the message saying, come have margaritas at the restaurant next door, maybe put yourself out there and take advantage of that opportunity. You don't know what's going to come from that. And I can say that the worst has happened to me for showing up and putting myself out there. I showed up to a team bonding thinking it was a pajama theme and all the other moms were dressed up in their cocktail attire. I shared a room with someone and had an allergic reaction in the middle of their night when their kid had a 4 a.m. wake up call. Like the worst has happened and it all still turned out okay. All of those friends, all of those people are still friends with me.
With a good
So
story.
the worst can happen and it can turn out okay. And I think that we don't put ourselves out there because we're afraid of what could happen. And I'm telling you, it even if the worst happens, it's gonna be okay. So, and it probably won't happen to you, but all of those things have happened to me. So, and here we all are. So, really quickly, I know I'll tell the story one day in at length. We all laugh about it now. I sometimes post about it on social media, and those moms will pop into the comments and be like, "Haha, we love you."
Remember that.
Let's go around just rapid fire. What is one piece of advice that you would give to cheer moms?
Just be mom. Don't be coach. Don't be private lesson tutor. Don't be critic. Don't be, just be mom. And when she comes off the mat and she's so sad and she's, or whatever, just love her and hug her and don't tell her how it should have been fixed. And don't tell her, like there's so many people in our kids' lives who are criticizing them, and just be mom. Just be the one that says, it was so fun to watch you out there. It doesn't matter how they did. It was so fun watching you do what you love. And I just find that my best moments are when I'm just mom.
That's amazing. I love that. I would say being able, like when you're traveling, being able to turn off everything else, turn off work, turn off anything and just be in the moment and have fun, be silly, do the TikTok dances, be silly, go get ice cream, go have fun. Because like you said, you will blink, Michele, and it will be gone. And just being mom, it's like just like that. Be mom, have fun, live in the moment, and just enjoy this time because it will not last forever.
Yeah, I think that's my advice is watch your kid, do what they love. Don't make it about you. Make it about them. And if it's about them, then it doesn't matter who fell, who hit, who did, who got their tuck first, who got their full when no one else did. None of that really matters because you're really there for your kid. And if you love your kid, then you'll be happy with where they're at, not always looking for where they're gonna be. Be proud of your kid where they are and stop worrying about what other kids around them are going to get to. Focus on what your kid can do today, not what they can do tomorrow.
Absolutely. Even if they are working on a forward roll, I did a forward roll not that long ago. Those are no joke.
No.
I watched the video. I saw that, Kristen.
Yes.
I saw you do that.
So levels don't make you a better athlete.
Love
or a better
that.
mom. Or a better
Levels.
mom.
I love that. And it shouldn't have any bearing on your relationship with your kid. So I love that. Well, thank you, ladies, so much. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for your contribution and your experience. And you guys have been so much fun.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us. This was
Awesome.
the podcast is like my I walk when I walk my dog, I listen to it. And so thank you for providing a place for all of us to feel like we're not crazy, like we all are in this together, and it feels better. So thank you for your contributions to the sport, Kristen. It's been really good.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
you absolutely give like a real perspective of the sport, and like it's relatable. Like I listen to you and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's exactly how I feel, or that's exactly how it is. That's so true. And it's nice hearing someone who just speaks open and candidly, and you just say it.
And can make fun of it at the same time.
Yeah, we all are fully crazy. Let's just clear that up. We're all fully crazy.